Synopsis. Alright, right into it, that's the ticket. None of that stupid Evangelion cut to immediately after to ingeniously show the effects of amnesia and give the audience a masterful sense of variety and disorientation about the events that occurred. Crap! Let's go and find out if Lapras got exploded.
But in a moment, we'll see who the winner is.
Oh dear, it did. But hey, so was Gengar, so hooray! Question mark. Ash has apparently already outdone all of his Orange Island peers by being the first trainer ever to knock out 3 of Drake's Pokemon in a row, which is either a testament to how much he's grown as a trainer or a scathing indictment of the caliber of trainer that usually frequents this league. But let's give him the benefit of the doubt. So as the field changes, Ash takes a breather on the nearby repurposed bus stop and considers his strategy, and then immediately gets up to stretch his legs. Restless leg syndrome, I guess. Makes sense for Ash. Meanwhile, Drake reveals that he and Ash aren't so different.
You're the only strategy I'll need to win.
Mind you, I can't talk. That was my exact strategy on my first playthrough. Who needs type advantages in the Elite Four when you have an overlevel Charizard, right? Meanwhile, Team Rocket go over their ingenious plan to capture Dragonite.
We don't need him to beat Dragonite. We just need him to battle it for a while and tire it out for us.
It's perfect. And the only way it could fail is if anyone else in this entire stadium had a moderately strong Pokemon to challenge us. Hey, it never happened before. I like our chances. So after the stadium workers apparently scrape the mountains off and fill in the pool, we get a totally different environment to work with. Then Drake brings out, ooh, a Venusaur. Nice. And Ash is actually considering proper type advantages. This is getting good.
Venusaur's too strong for Bulbasaur, and Lapras needs a good rest. I choose you!
Well, it was nice while it lasted. Yes, Ash, let's bring out the self-concussed Mon rather than your overpowered fire dragon that was literally designed to beat Venusaur. Well, I guess we gotta save that for the finale, so let's see what Tauros has up its hooves. I admit it is cool to see Ash use other Pokemon for once.
Fissure!
Huh, I guess I spoke too soon about that stage change, since the sand apparently nullifies earthquake attacks. So as Venusaur prepares to blast the bull with a laser fired out of its prominent sex organ, Tauros attempts to disrupt it.
Now the whole stadium's shaking as Tauros stampedes straight for Venusaur.
So the sandy ground prevents earthquake moves, but it doesn't slow down running speed or stop the stadium from shaking. Okay, fine, that could just be hyperbole from the announcer, but Tauros should still have trouble running. Then in an awesome move, Ash gets Tauros to launch Venusaur into the air, which it does with such force it breaks the anime rule of 3 repeating impacts. 4. The Maniac. But what's this? Venusaur has apparently gained platformer powers and is able to rotate himself perfectly in the air. Tauros is doomed.
Tauros is up.
Holy crabby, why doesn't Ash use old number 24 more often? This thing's a beast. And then it gets backvined by the Venusaur and it still keeps going. What a trooper. Then it breaks through the vines and lands a takedown which finishes Venusaur off. Okay, a little cheesy, but the build-up of the win through attrition makes up for it. What's next though? We still have one more before Dragonite.
Electabuzz, Drake's 5th Pokemon, prepares to take on Tauros. It looks like Tauros is pretty worn out.
Oh, so now it's exhausted. After conking itself on the noggin, taking 12 tanning beds worth of UV rays to the face, and running through the equivalent of the Forest and Evil Dead twice, now it decides it's tuckered out. What a lazy butt. Well, Ash, what's your angle? Let me guess, Squirtle? Okay, this could work, though Tracy seems skeptical.
Don't forget, you have to take level into account too, not just type.
Normally I'd object to game terminology being used in the show like I did with hit points in the Indigo League, but the use of level here can easily just imply general strength, like, oh, it's on another level, so I'll let it slide. So Drake starts off with a Thunder Shock, the weakest electric move at the time, okay. And then follows it up with a Thunderbolt, a much more powerful move. Really utilizing the move ball there, huh, Drake? But yes, more electricity, extra DeLorean noises. Then Ash is all, he thinks he can beat me with his weakest move? I'll show him. Bulbasaur, use the weakest attack in all of Pokemon that actually connects.
Tackle attack!
And then Drake is all, I tire of this. Electabuzz, freaking clock him. Say what? So Ash, faced with no other choice, brings out Charizard and the announcer's all,
Ash chooses Charizard, the only fully evolved Pokemon in this lucky youngster's arsenal.
dude, no need to rub it in. That phrase bizarrely makes us both look bad. So then Lance is all, that's a nice Charizard there, Ash, but it's no match for my Thunder Kidney Punch. What the heck is that? My Thunder Kidney Punch. But how does it work? It may not look like much, my Thunder Kidney Punch, but it's just too intense. Stop doing that! Luckily, even in the absence of ketchup, Ash is still able to deliver a fast food themed smackdown with a supersized McToss.
Supersized McToss!
Yeah, I know what it's meant to be, but that doesn't stop me wishing it was a move. So Electabuzz is out for the count after a rather underwhelming impact that was copied directly from Charizard Chills. Jeez, guys, at least copy good animation, leaving only the beast.
Get ready.
Here it comes.
I choose you!
Ha! Your cheap ad break gimmicks have no power here on DVD, you fools. Immediate reveal. Here he is, Dragonite, the destroyer of worlds. I might be able to come up with a less dignified cry for Dragonite, but I'd need a committee and 2 weeks of research. I mean, I guess it's meant to be subverting expectations like Bellsprout, but still, dang.
I was afraid of this.
Who would have thought he'd put his star Pokemon into his team? I just had a bad feeling. I don't get it though, he just looks like a mutated Moomin. How's he meant to be intimidated? Oh, shaman on a stick, crap's going down. So Drake kicks off this epic battle with the most powerful move in Dragonite's arsenal.
Dragonite, water gun.
And then he uses Ice Beam and Charizard's all, oh no, I'm not going through that again. One flashback montage was enough, thanks. And then they trade fire and ice until Charizard tries to pull the old seismic toss, only for Dragonite to reverse it into an Azuna drop. Oh, dang! So how can Charizard recover from that? Well, what else would you use to rage against a dragon?
Dragon Rage!
But Dragonite fires back with its own fireball, also with added DeLorean sound effects. That's not a good sign. Yep, Charizard is out for the count, and now Ash has to rely on his previously pooped Pokemon. Then this glorious interlude happens where Team Rocket is pretty much stopped from interrupting by the will of the audience.
Sit down. Yeah, I'm enjoying this.
That out of the way, Squirtle is brought out and great, of course Dragonite has an electric type move as well, why not? Luckily, even after being steamed in its own shell, Squirtle has enough in it for one more attack. How can he counter Dragonite's Body Slam? Well, he could try to knock it off course with a Skull Bash. Oh, or he could even do another Hydro Pump while it's distracted. Whittle it down a bit.
Bubble attack, now! Squared out!
Or he could blow bubbles at it. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off. Oh, defeated by a tail whip. That's gotta sting. Then, come on. You had a wonderful subversion. Everyone liked it. Just sit down and sell some peanuts, you nerds.
Jesse!
Gee, how dare you interrupt this competition?
So Dragonite just flies through the balloon like wet paper. Jesse sums up the whole scene in one sentence.
We needed that like a hole in the head!
And with the rocket gods sated by sacrificing the minimum required runtime, it's back to business. Tauros comes out and Ash actually has a decent idea by getting it to stand still and have the impact of Dragonite's body slam get absorbed by the sand. Now that Dragonite is caught in Taurus's horns, I'd personally recommend some kind of bull suplex, but instead Ash opts for throwing it. Still, it looks like it did something, but then Tauros is hit with a thunder and all that's left is Pikachu. Unfortunately, it doesn't bode well to begin with as Dragonite hits him with his OP tail whip and briefly transforms him into a Ditto.
Pikachu, I know you can do it!
Ash, did you check that yours was the real Pikachu?
Hyper beam!
Oh, Chandelure! Luckily, Pikachu is able to use its own OP tail whip against the ground, and it's back in the fight. Then it goes for the Shadow of the Colossus strategy, and Dragonite does its best to whittle down Pikachu's stamina. Too late for that, though, as it hits Dragonite with a full blast of thunder. Is it enough? Wait, Ash won a league? Ash won a league? What? Why are my hands fading? I don't feel so good. What's going on? Thoughts? Yep, that happened. Take it in, because it ain't gonna happen again. Whew! Now that was a battle. No, it wasn't perfect, but it was still one of the best in the series so far, and light years better than any of the Indigo League battles. To clarify, the conclusion to the Indigo League was better and more satisfying, but in terms of feeling like you're actually watching a knockdown, drag-out battle between two skilled trainers, this is a shining example. It's as if the writer, Atsuhiro Tomioka again, watched the Indigo League and realized that not only was the best and most interesting episode in that arc the one where everyone just kind of shuts up and battles, but that wacky hijinks and thrilling adventure, while fun and awesome, is what the viewer comes to filler for. The gyms and the league are for discovering how far we've come and utilizing what came before to deliver a fight we can really care about, and this delivers that. Mostly. Before I get into that sort of thing though, let me just gush about the battle writing a little more. See, not only were there cool strategies and ideas coming at the audience with a breathless pace and filling out the runtime so effortlessly Team Rocket's interruptions barely scratched it, but it was also really smart about it. Consider Tauros, the MVP of the whole fight who carried most of the battles. How is this side of B finally brought down? Through exhaustion after fighting multiple opponents. Not only was this great foreshadowing for how the match would end, it was also plausible Ash noticed this and used it in his strategy against Dragonite and made it so that this method of defeat was established in the viewer's mind, leaving them able to easily piece together what happened when Dragonite fell. It's fantastic. I just wish the animation could have matched it. Yeah, one of the few gripes I had with this episode is the animation. It wasn't bad, and there were some really dynamic cuts in there that helped sell the impact a lot, such as here when you watch Dragonite's foot pivot into its tail whip before seeing it affect Pikachu, which really emphasized its power. But then there were other moments where it looked really cheap. Chief among those would probably be Charizard's seismic toss against Electabuzz, which not only hit like a damp squib, but it was a copied damp squib. I'm still not over over that. I don't get it. This is the second league to look like they were cutting corners. Why couldn't they have gotten Asada and Iwane on this one? Not only that, but some of the fights were really substandard and cheap, like Squirtle versus Dragonite, but to make them all fantastic, you'd really need another episode. Also, Drake is still boring, but I guess that's just what happens when you're called Drake. Music burn that will probably age really poorly. I'll go more into the implications of Ash actually winning a league in the recap coming up, but despite its hiccups, this episode overcomes its weaknesses to become an exemplary battle, just like its main character. I can't give it any less than an Ultra Ball. Trivia: in an interesting case of not knowing a rule exists until it's broken, Dragonite in this episode actually uses 10 moves total over the course of the battle, well over the 4-move limit. Of course, you may be thinking, but they break that rule all the time. Well, no, a Pokemon can know more than 4 moves in the show, but until now they never use more than 4 in a single battle, unless you count Dodge It, which I don't. So why the change for Dragonite? Well, on Bulbapedia it's alleged that Tomioka-san stated he did it to enhance how intimidating and unstoppable Dragonite seemed. However, there isn't a primary source for that, so it's still just speculation. While I get that, I still think he could have just had Thunder, Ice Beam, Dragon Rage, and Body Slam, and it still would have worked without breaking the rules. Just use Dragon Rage instead of Hyper Beam. Speaking of moves though, a surprising number of changes were made to the names of attack moves in the dub, and strangely it was nearly always to make them wimpier. Charizard's Fire Spin was changed to Ember, and Squirtle's pathetic Bubble was meant to be the slightly better Bubble Beam. Did they do it to make them seem weaker and then make it all the more impressive when they won? It seems really convoluted to me if that's the case. I'm guessing it was just a mistake. Lastly, continuing the dub changes, there was another strange one here, where Ash's insert at the very end actually irises out before the fade to black in the original Japanese. If you listen, you can even hear it when it was meant to happen. I guess they thought a freeze frame was more triumphant, but I liked seeing the footprints in the Hall of Fame. It reminded me of the pictures of all your Pokemon you got when you beat the game. Still, I can at least see the rationale.